I'm excited for this season of Rocket Motivation because my firm, Hand, Arundel, Harris & Sale, Attorneys at Law, where I am a partner, is our sponsor. We understand life and running a business can be challenging, but with the right support, it can also be incredibly rewarding. That's why we're thrilled to announce our partnership with Hand, Arundel, Harris & Sale.
I don't feel like I'm hurt that bad. I'm paralyzed, but I get by. I've never really realized how stubborn and determined I am, and it makes things easier for me now because I realized, hopefully, knock on wood, overcome the most difficult thing that I've ever going to come through. So problems now are minuscule. And I've always thought that the reason I got hurt was so somebody else didn't have to and get hurt worse.
Hey everyone, this is Cate, and welcome to this week's episode of Rocket Motivation. At age 27, this week's guest had a hunting accident where he fell from a tree, resulting in a broken back that caused partial paralysis of his legs. After a tough rehab, he was able to walk again, but with significant limitations. He has taken this life-changing experience and looked at it as a wake-up call to live life at its fullest. He tells a great story of overcoming. Trent Crawford, welcome to Rocket Motivation.
Thanks, Rod. Appreciate you having me.
So, Trent, let's do this. Kind of tell us where you are now in your life, where you live, family, what you do. Just kind of catch us up.
Gotcha. I live in Fairhope, Alabama. I have a beautiful wife, 3 wonderful kids. I got a 5-year-old Thompson, twin 3-year-old girls, Curry and Campbell, and I build cabinets.
All right. Well, let's go back. Let's talk about the accident you had. All right. So when was it? Take us through what happened.
It was the opening weekend of bow season in 2012, so October 15th, 16th, something like that. I walked back about as far as I could get from our camp house and decided to climb a tree. My climber on the way up, I thought was stuck. I went to put weight on the top part of the climber. It slipped, and I fell up backwards. I was only 12 foot off the ground.
Okay. And tell us, because some of us aren't hunters, tell us about what is a climber. I know it gets you up a tree, but what is it? It's
a 2-piece apparatus. The top and the bottom aren't really connected. The bottom part connects to your feet. You hold on to the top part with your hands. It's kind of a lever system that sticks into the tree. The bottoms, when they're stuck, you can move the top part. When the top part's stuck, you put pressure on it and move the bottom part up. And you move up the tree slowly, one step at a time. So again, my bottom was stuck. I went to move my top part. I thought it was stuck. I went to put pressure on it. So when it slipped, I lost my balance because all my pressure was on my upper part, my top part. And when it slipped, it did catch, but it caught below my butt. So it caught around my hamstrings. And I was already going backwards. I feel like if it would have caught a little bit higher, I would have been fine. I would have stayed in the tree. But because it was so low, I flipped over the top part and flipped out.
All right. And so then what happened?
I assume I fell backwards and hit the ground. The EMTs, when they got there, asked me how long I'd been unconscious. And I said, man, I don't know. I didn't look at my watch on the way down.
You said, I don't know. I've been unconscious.
Right. So when I woke up, I couldn't move. I knew I was paralyzed. When the EMTs got there, they told me I had 2 bruises on my head already. So I had 2 spots on my forehead where my knees had hit my forehead. So I folded in half around my belly button, which was my L1 vertebra.
Okay. All right. So then, kind of take us through the story. What happens then?
So somehow I had cell phone signal. I had not had cell phone signal the year before. The year after, I went back to the same spot, didn't have cell phone signal then. But I was able to call some guys from my club that were about a mile away. They immediately started coming towards me. I then called my dad to let him know what had happened. He got in touch with my uncle, who was a member of the same club but wasn't there. Between the guys that were there and my uncle, they got in touch with the game warden to let him know where I was. And between all 3 of them, and the game warden picked the EMTs up at the dirt road, came to get me in a truck with the EMTs, put me on a backboard in the back of a truck. Truck took me to the ambulance. Ambulance took me to Life Flight.
Okay.
And flew me to South.
They flew you to University of South Alabama Medical Center here in Mobile.
Correct.
Were you still on the ground the first time you spoke with like your father?
Oh, I couldn't move. I told him I was paralyzed.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I wanted to ask you. First of all, what's going through your head when you know you're laying there on the ground and you're paralyzed?
This sucks. I mean, I've listened to a lot of your podcast, and everybody has this moment of, oh, crap. I don't know. I never had it. Yeah. It was just like, okay, this is where we are. We got to deal with it, figure a way out.
Well, it's funny you say that because although when I got hurt, I broke my neck playing football, but I was paralyzed from the neck down, but I was only 15. Mm-hmm. And so, I don't think my mind could really wrap itself around what was going on. But I'm sitting there, I'm pretty much face down on the ground, and I can't move anything. But it wasn't like some dramatic, oh my God. It's just like, shit, this is not good.
Well, I knew I was hurt. I didn't know how bad I was hurt. I mean, you saw me walk. I have dexterity in my legs now, but at that point in time, it was waist down. I couldn't move anything.
Right.
So I was really uncomfortable, and I used my hands and rolled over into the fetal position, which was not a good idea to move, but that was the most comfortable situation I could get in. And at that point in time, it was, okay, figure out how do we get out of here? Because I knew if I couldn't get in touch with anybody, it was going to be 8 o'clock at night before anybody started looking for me.
Right. Okay, you get to South. What do they do there?
At South, we learned how bad it was. It was an L1 complete burst, so my vertebra was gone. I had 6 broken ribs and a punctured lung, which I just knew about the back. I didn't know about the other stuff. They went in, cleaned me out, put in 2 rods, 8 screws, and a bridge. And at that point in time, told me we needed to look for rehab, and they suggested that I go to Shepherd.
Okay. And at that time, could you move anything from the waist
I had
down?
No movement.
Okay. All right. And what did you get the standard, you're going to be lucky if you ever walk again?
Oh, they told me I wouldn't walk.
So you got the you're not going to walk
Correct.
again. Okay. So you go to Shepherd's, and I think a lot of people that know the rehab world know Shepherd's is probably one of the best rehab facilities in the world in Atlanta. All right. Tell us about going to Shepherd's.
Disney World of rehab.
Yeah.
They're not scared.
Yeah.
I got really fortunate. They didn't have any adult beds. The way I was able to get there was to be on the pediatric floor. Now, pediatrics at Shepherd is 13 and up, so it's not like I was babies, but 13 to 18-year-olds, and I was 27, and I was in full burly hunting beard mode, and it was pretty interesting meeting all the kids that were on my floor and on my team. And they had a different attitude than everybody at Mobile. They said, we're going to see if you can walk. We'll give it a shot.
Yeah. Well, tell us, though, about you go on this pediatric floor. How did that change your perspective or the way you looked at things?
To see those kids and the attitude that they had, there were kids there on sip and puff chairs, C-level injuries that had an awesome attitude. And I looked at my dad and I said, I can't not work here. I mean, there's no way I can let these kids have that attitude, and I'm going to be sad. We're going to figure this out. And when we talked earlier, I told you about Brooke. Brooke was my main motivating factor. A 16-year-old surfer, diving accident, C5, came in to kind of introduce me to Shepherd. That's one of the things they did, is they bring people in to let you know, not a nurse or somebody who works there, but a patient, to tell you what their experience is like. And she told us that the doctors had told her she would never be able to use her hands again. And while she was saying that, she picked up a water bottle and took a sip of water. And my dad and I looked at each other and said, okay, let's do it.
Yeah.
If she has this attitude, she can do it. She's 16. I'm a grown man. We can figure this out.
All right. So tell me what you did. How'd you figure it out?
Worked.
Yeah.
A lot. They give awards when you graduate. And one of my awards was most likely to be seen in the gym when he doesn't have an appointment. So that's what I did. I worked. I'd have 3 physical therapy sessions a day. So 3 hours a day. I was in the gym 6, 7, 8 hours a day.
But when did stuff like first start coming back? Because I know with the spinal cord injury that, some things just don't come back, and there's nothing you can work all you want, and that won't come back. Although I do think that the harder you work with what you do have, that's the difference maker. But so tell me how things started coming back and and the first time you actually stood up.
I think I stood up within the first week, but. So my quads are what I do everythth with. I don't have anything from the knees down, and I don't have glutes. So quads is what gets me everywhere. But my quads were so weak, I don't know if it was from the shock. That's not an L1 injury level. You still have quads at L1. But for some reason, my legs just didn't work. So when we would do exercises, I could tall kneel, so stand up on your knees for seconds at a time, and my legs would just be shaking. And maybe it's because I didn't have my hamstrings to help. I didn't have my glutes to help. So it was all in the quads. But I just slowly worked on that. I stood up within the first week with a walker. I don't think I ever stood there without a device. I mean, they had me in harnesses trying to walk and trying to get form and function down. But it was either a walker or forearm crutches. But by the end of 3 months, I had forearm crutches. And that's how I was getting around. But I never walked there. I learned how to walk on my own.
Okay. So you leave Shepherd's and you're not walking. So well, tell us about then, how is it that you learned to walk on your own?
I wanted to go back. So I had very few down moments through this. I don't know why, but it didn't really bother me. I figured if somebody had to get hurt and somebody could learn something from the situation, I was the one to teach people to wear a harness.
And why do you think that was your attitude?
I'm super stubborn. I don't know. I just figured I knew I could handle it. And I knew a lot of people that I hunt with, or a lot of people that I'm connected through, if they were in this situation, they wouldn't be able to handle it like this. So,
it's so weird you say that, because I've always thought that about my family. If anybody could handle this and go through it, it was me.
Right. My cousin actually said that when I was in Mobile. He said, I don't want to say this the wrong time. He said, but if anybody can handle it, it's him. So, I mean, that's kind of the attitude I had. Like, if anybody's going to do it, I'll do it. I'll show them why to wear a harness, but also show them how to get through something.
Right. Well, all right. Well, tell us. All right. So how is it that you started walking again?
So one of my down moments was my first night alone in Shepherd, because nobody stayed in the room with me. And they blocked me pretty good with pillows, and I'm pretty claustrophobic, and I didn't like that. And after they realized that I could move a lot more and I could turn myself, that they didn't do it. And so that night was rough. After that, it wasn't bad. First night I got home, it was rough, because at Shepherd, there's always a hope that you're going to get something back. You're going to get better. You're going to learn how to do more. And when I got home, I knew that Shepherd was so special. There was not physical therapy like that here. And I was worried that I wasn't going to progress. So I wanted to get back to Shepherd. They told me I would know when it was time to come back. I didn't know what that meant, but they just said I would know. So I figured if I learned how to walk without anything, it would be time to go back. So I learned how to walk.
But how? How did you do it?
I'd get up and fall forward. They told me when I was there that walking was a control fall forward. So I would get up, start going forward, and try to move my feet one in front of the other.
Lot of falling down?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. But they also taught me how to fall at Shepherd, so it wasn't that dangerous.
Yeah. I've got a chapter in my book about how to fall.
It's an art. It is definitely an art.
It is, and you don't. And it depends on how. Some falls are like you just kind of lose your balance and you go down. But there's some falls like that I have where you trip. I mean, you stub your toe and you're going down fast.
You look like
you want to put your hands down, and that's the biggest mistake you can have. I've broken this ring finger 3 times doing that. And but anyway, this isn't my story. This is yours. All right, so. But you get to where you can walk good enough to get back to Shepherd's to improve.
It wasn't pretty. I started at like 20, 30 foot at a time, and I got somebody to take a video of me walking, 20 foot. And I sent it to my therapist that I had while I was there. I said, "Is it time?" And she said, "Yeah, come on."
And at this time, I mean, you're married already?
I was not married then.
You're not married?
You were
not married?
Dating my future wife.
Okay.
But I was not married yet.
Okay. All right. So back to Shepherd's.
Well, that was only a 6-week program.
Okay.
But it's called Beyond Therapy. It was very intense. Like, that was 4 or 5 sessions a day, and they're training. It's not necessarily physical therapy as much as it is they're your personal trainer, and they are working you so hard in teaching you how to do stuff that insurance isn't going to pay for. Like riding a bike, they taught me how to ride a bike. They taught me how to walk through the woods holding onto a gun, not using crutches. So that's stuff that I wanted to learn how to do, but insurance wouldn't pay for me to learn how to do. So that's why I wanted to go back for this.
Right. And I think you told me earlier you had some goals that you wanted. What were those goals?
I wanted to learn to ride a bike. I wanted to walk through the woods holding a gun without having an assistance, and I wanted to run a 4.40. And they asked me if I could run the 4.40 before I got hurt, and I said I was pretty fast. They were like, "Well, let's get the other 2 down first."
But you got the other 2.
I got the other 2.
Right, and so so you can actually go out by yourself hunting in the woods, walking with your gun.
Correct. Okay. I can do it. I can bow hunt. I can walk carrying a bow and shoot standing. I don't like to. Yeah. I'm much more accurate sitting down.
Yeah.
But I can do it.
I gotcha. So you have kids. So how old are your kids now?
I have a 5-year-old and twin 3-year-olds.
Oh, okay. And so how has that been being a father? Because I know about that. I was the way I was physically when my kids were born.
Right.
So they've never known dad to be anything but. See, I don't even know what you want to. I mean, physically challenged.
Right.
Say, none of that stuff matters to me. What you call me, but that's what they've known me as, and so that's the same with you.
Same with us.
But how's that been being a father, like with your situation?
When we first got pregnant, I was kind of worried that I wasn't going to be able to be the dad that I wanted to be. But my wife was good about telling me, Trent, you figured out how to do everything you've ever wanted to do since you got hurt. Why is that going to be different with kids? And that's the case. I mean, my only fear is I can't run after them. Like, if there's a situation where I needed to run to get to them, I better be in my wheelchair because that's the only way I'm catching them. So my kids listen fairly well because it terrifies me that they can run away from me.
Right.
Other than that, we figure it out. We play. We do everything that normal dads and their kids do.
Right. And tell me about your career change, because when this happened, what were you doing, job-wise?
I was an auditor.
Okay. And you say that the people can't see you, but when you say I was an auditor, that was not a happy face when you said that.
It was not pleasant.
So tell us about then why and how this accident made you just decide maybe an auditor isn't the way I want to go with my life, and you want to do something else. So tell us all about that.
Well, most people don't like auditors, and I like to be liked. So when I got hurt, I decided I'm not going to do something that makes me unhappy. When I was in college, I worked at a cabinet shop, and I'm fairly mechanically inclined. My dad is too. Our plan was to always open a cabinet shop together once he retired. Well, after I got hurt, my wife and I bought a house, and one of my requirements was I had to have a shop in the back. So bought the house, had a shop in the back, and I started doing stuff for our house, and people saw it, liked it, and asked me to do stuff for them. So it organically grew into a cabinet shop. I told my dad, I'm sorry, I can't wait on you to retire, and I started a cabinet shop.
Yeah. And how was that as far as fulfilling, in your life, that you're actually doing something you like doing?
It's not a job. I used to not look forward to waking up. I did not want to go to work every day. And now I don't mind getting up and going to work because it's not work. I mean, I have awesome guys that work with me. They baby me a little too much. They don't let me do some of the stuff that I used to do with it. When I first started, it was all by myself, and that was my therapy.
Yeah.
I mean, you can imagine building cabinets and moving cabinets.
Yeah.
It was physical work, so.
Well, I mean, I guess that's life lesson number one you can give, is that if you're not happy doing what you're doing, you don't have to have an accident to change.
Oh, yeah. Well, it was a bad situation, but I was fortunate. When I was in high school, my best friend had cancer, and I learned from him that all the cliche stuff, don't sweat the small stuff, because it doesn't really matter in the scheme of things. And the other thing I learned was somebody's always got it worse than you do. And that's the same thing with Brooke at Shepherd. She had it worse than I did, and she still had a positive attitude.
Right.
And I kind of go by that.
Right. And somebody had it worse than Brooke.
Oh, yeah. And Brooke knew that too.
Yeah.
She even said that.
Right. Have you ever had the why me moment, or the feeling sorry for yourself?
I've always thought that the reason I got hurt was so somebody else didn't have to and get hurt worse, because I don't feel like I'm hurt that bad. I'm paralyzed, but I get by.
Just paralyzed, no big deal.
Well, I mean, I have full dexterity in my arms, my upper body. I have my full core. I just don't have my knees down in my glutes.
And how? I mean, because I watched you walk in. How? I'm just wondering how. So you don't have any like calves. So you got the braces there. Okay.
That would be my one complaint about being paralyzed, is the equipment they make for me is not good enough.
I got you.
It breaks a lot.
Right. Okay. Well, I mean, I get, because most of that equipment is not for somebody as active as you.
Correct. They're not. It's not made for me. And my prosthetic guy tells me all the time, this stuff is not made for you.
Did you ever think about just giving up when you're going through rehab, or just like, man, this sucks and I'm just done?
No. I mean, I thought it sucked.
Yeah.
A couple of times.
Yeah.
Bowel ladder sucks.
Yeah.
Again, there were several situations where, like, my brother became a more spiritual person after this. I told him, and not to blame him by any means, I said, but if that's what it took for you to become more spiritual, it was worth it for me. And I know people who wear harnesses now because I didn't. And again, my injury is so slight compared to what it could have been. If I would have flipped a little bit more and been a cervical complete, that's a completely different life. And hopefully I've saved somebody from having that experience.
How has this event changed the way you look at life?
I guess I've never really realized how stubborn and determined I am, and it makes things easier for me now, because I realized hopefully, knock on wood, overcome the most difficult thing that I've ever am going to come through. So problems now are minuscule.
Yeah, I gotcha. What have you learned about yourself through all this?
The stubbornness. My parents always told me I was stubborn. I never thought I was a stubborn person. When I got back from the hospital, they told me that I couldn't take the boat out anymore by myself. So I waited until they all went to work, took a 27-foot Ocean Master and backed it down the boat ramp by myself, launched it, and sent them a picture from the middle of the bay and said, "Don't tell me what I can't do."
The picture wasn't you flipping them the bird, was
No.
it?
I was sweet about it.
Oh, that's good. All right, well, Trent, based on what you've been through, what we like to do at Rocket Motivation Podcast is give advice to people that, they don't have to be going through something as traumatic as yours or even worse than yours, but just somebody that's going through some tough times, dealing with adversity. Based on what you've been through, what would you tell them to try to help them, get through what they're going through?
I think you have to know yourself and know what it takes for you to get over stuff. For me, I have to set a goal, and I'm going to achieve the goal. But if you know you need help or support, you've got to be able to ask for help or support. If you think that you just need time, just be willing to take the time to do what it takes. You have to know what motivates you and what gets you through the tough times, and then put it into action. So you've got to do some self-reflection and figure yourself out what you need to get through that tough time. And just because it's what you're going through is tougher than anything else you've been through, you've made it through the stuff that's not this tough. Use what you got through that other stuff with to get through this tougher time. And just it might take longer or more work.
Where do you see yourself in 10 years, 15 years? Where do you want to be?
Getting ready to get kids out of the house and have some travel time with my wife.
There you go. All right. So, Trent, if people want to learn more about you, about your story, about, your company, how can they follow you?
They can follow me on Facebook. That's my business's Facebook account. It's Crawford Customs. If you want to get in touch with me, send me a message through that. I always love talking to people who either have a spinal injury or going through stuff, because I feel like if I didn't have Brooke at the hospital to help me, I wouldn't have had the same journey I've had. And if somebody needs somebody to talk to, hit me up.
All right, man. Well, Trent, I want to thank you so much for coming in, man. This has been so much fun for me, especially because we share some things that other people don't know about and don't share. So it's been I've just loved listening to you and listen. Your attitude is so great, and man, so it's been my pleasure and my honor having you in here today. But one thing, man, I don't let you go because I always give the guests the parting shot. So, before we go, kind of dig deep, something we hadn't talked about yet, some great, additional advice, take us home with something.
I like to think I could do everything by myself and I'll figure it out. But my supporting cast is the real reason I've gotten to do the stuff I can do. I have a good buddy who's a fishing guide, Sam Glass, who, when I got hurt, when I came back home from Shepherd, he said, "Hey, we're going to get you back on the bow of the boat. Well, let's figure out what you need." And he had a platform built just for me so I could stand on the front of the boat and fish. I have a friend, Chase Chandler, that I go fishing with every year, and he works with the guides that we go with to say, "Hey, my guy's paralyzed. This is what we need to be able to make sure that he can do it." So as determined as I am, as stubborn as I am, having that supporting cast and those people who help you out, it really makes a big, big difference.
Yeah, it does. And I see that in my life too. I've got a buddy who I work out with who he has a metal fabricating shop, and I like to fish too. And he built what's called the rod ramp, and it's just a metal platform with the rails on it that you can put on the dock, and it goes straight across into the boat, so I can just walk straight on. And it's just, but you're right. It's so important to have good friends that you don't want that much. And I know you don't. It's not like you want all this help, and I don't either. But sometimes it is nice just to not have to worry about how am I going to get into the dang boat.
Right.
But anyway, man, Trent, this has been great. Thanks for coming in again, and we'll talk to you soon.
I appreciate it, Rod. Thanks for having me.
What a great episode with Trent Crawford. He talks about being stubborn, but I think stubborn might be code for determination and grit, because I'm telling you what he's gone through, and and where he is now in his life, man, it's really spectacular. And the life lessons he gave today are just wonderful. But we'll see you next week. We'll have another great episode on Rocket Motivation Podcast. Thanks again for listening to Rocket Motivation. I want to again thank our sponsor, my law firm, Hand Arundel Harrison Self, with offices in Mobile, Birmingham, Fairhope, and Athens, Alabama, and Destin, Panama City Beach, and Santa Rosa Beach, Florida. We are uniquely situated among the Southeast major law firms to provide legal direction to clients throughout Alabama and Northwest Florida. So whether you're looking for legal advice, litigators, or simply a partner you can trust, Hand Arundel Harrison Sale is there for you. Thank you for listening, and be sure to check out Hand Arundel Harrison Sale for all your legal needs. Visit our website at handfirm.com. And if you would like to get my book, Get Back Up, it's available at Amazon. Just put in Get Back Up and my name, Rod Cate, and the book will pop up. I'd appreciate it if you would subscribe to Rocket Motivation wherever you listen to your podcasts. And please rate and review the shows and spread the word about Rocket Motivation to your friends. So until next time, remember, never give up and always get back up.